Hello everyone. In this video I want to speak about Uranus stationing retrograde this week. I have a retrograde class series. I speak in depth about the meaning of all of the retrograde planets. You can buy that whole series or an individual class. Learn more about that in the description below. Whenever a planet moves retrograde, I always say it's as if that planetary function is emphasized, like there's a pulse on that function within consciousness. We're called to go within, to more deeply internalize and integrate and assimilate the essence of that particular planetary function. We know that Uranus corresponds to the intelligence of life. It's what is. It's the algorithm of creation. It's the unfolding of our own individuality, individually and collectively. Everything is as it is created, and it all harmonizes and resonates with all of creation. We have the issue within Uranus where we have the projections and the crystallized thoughts that we put on reality that becomes a story that we're putting out there onto life. And our stories don't necessarily resonate with what actually is. And it's very possible to think a thought that just doesn't land, right? Like, no one likes me, or everyone's out to get me. The mind is creating that thought vibration, but there is no substance to it, right? Like, you can't actually look at it and find any truth in it. Logically, Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, so there's oftentimes some sort of logical reality to it, to the stories that we create. We can logically piece together any thought we want to have about reality and make it feel true or sensible to us, but the only effect that actually has is it kind of puts our mind in a sort of matrix. And we create our own little matrix reality, and we say, this is the one that I'm living in. And it's very easy in that state for reality to essentially confirm for us that matrix that we're projecting, that we've put our mind into. So Uranus, when we have strong Uranian transits, it's always about liberation, freedom from the constructs that we've created. This often coincides with a lot of stress or anxiety or pressure. What happens when Uranus moves retrograde, and I'll speak in a moment specifically to this retrograde, but in general, there can be strong impressions, content from the past, unresolved trauma, impressions, content that is not fully assimilated or resolved yet. And if it's in the subconscious, we're not consciously accessing it, yet it's informing our perception of reality, and yet where we don't quite know why. We have our perception, we have our impressions, we have our stories, we have our crystallized thoughts, but there's like suppressed content underneath it. And a lot of this isn't even just from this current life. In fact, Uranus, and we often see this during strong Uranus transits, a lot of deeper subconscious suppressed content within the soul, beyond just this life, begins to emerge, and we don't consciously understand the roots of it or where it's coming from. Thus, it's very helpful during strong Uranus transits when it's going retrograde to keep ourselves relaxed and free of story. The cultivation of observer mind is always very helpful with Uranus because the content that's emerging right now is leading us to seeing life in a completely different way. And the principle is that we're moving towards a state of greater harmony and resonance and belonging. That's a natural movement of creation. It's only our crystallized thoughts of separation that we really want to hold on to that are actually just ways of keeping our own individuality suppressed, so we don't have to address the content that's uncomfortable. Right now, Uranus moving retrograde, squaring Saturn retrograde. They've been squaring each other for a long time. They will never have an exact square, but they're going to get very close, within a degree. And it's interesting because they're going to get really close within a degree, both retrograde just at this very pivotal time after Uranus has passed the North Node. So there's a lot of evolutionary emphasis right now, where I would say this whole Uranus-Saturn dynamic, which has been going on for a couple of years now, it's coalescing, it's culminating at the end of this year. After this square, they are really going to separate and move further into this last quarter square. And there is a great amount of stress. In fact, Jeff Green associates this last quarter square with Uranus. It's a very Aquarian energy. He speaks to it as throwing off precedent. But how do we throw off the precedent? Right? We don't just rebel against something recklessly. There's seeing. We see, oh, I've been orienting this way, and I realize I don't have to. I can see it this way. Fear thoughts, separation thoughts, thoughts that come with anxiety, those aren't the thoughts to travel with. They're the thoughts to notice and to see what's emerging, what's coming through. Saturn being so heavily involved in this retrograde, and it's going to be stationing direct, simultaneous to this really tight square with Uranus. So there is a significant degree of culmination happening where we have the opportunity to consciously, Saturn is very conscious, ground ourselves in a new reality that is far more aligned and resonant with our individuality, that brings togetherness and harmony in a way that is just so, like, almost everything we've wanted. I'm not predicting like everything's going to be utopian, but we have to understand what feels so natural and right for us, and where we feel out of alignment with that. There is actually a movement towards that alignment. But to come into that alignment, we need to actually meet all of the suppressed content that's conditioning our perception of reality. So this is a great time with Uranus stationing retrograde this week to really keep an open mind and a quality of ground and presence and curiosity with just the inner content, with what's presenting itself right now. I always think of retrograde movements as sort of ceremonial times. They're almost like their own conjunction. When a planet moves retrograde, it's conjunct itself. Think about it, it's just stopping, right? It's obviously not actually stopping, but from a geocentric point of view, that's our experience of it. It's just there, present. It's a stillness, it's a still point. So it's a great opportunity to really look inside. And what does that mean with Uranus? We're looking at all of the impressions, all of the dream symbols, all of the messages, all of the emotional content, all of the fear thoughts, all of everything that's repeating itself within our field of awareness. Not grabbing it, not trying to interpret it, continuing to hold it in a state of relaxation. This is something I've been really learning and thinking a lot about with Uranus, especially in Taurus. A state of non-defensiveness and openness means we're fundamentally allowing reality to be exactly as it is and not grabbing so tightly to a fixed stance that says this is what's going on. And that allows us to even be in discomfort, but with grace, in an open and relaxed way. And there's so much wisdom, there's so much learning that we find that is available for us as we learn to meet experience with greater relaxation. It's almost like wisdom and relaxation, insight and clear seeing and relaxation come together. Okay, thank you for watching.